Hello my friends, hello everybody out there. This is Gosia from Cosmic Agency. Yes, I said it. I was not going to say it ever again, but it just came out. Today I have a lot of very interesting and important topics to go through, so let's get to it. First, a very short comment about sugar. Then, it was mentioned that there is this quarantine around Earth, and that's why, among other reasons, the Tibetans couldn't communicate. And there's going to be something about that. Then a small comment on the moon, about the moon. Then a question from Jeff from the recent interview I did in English about the planetary racial war. Is there anything as such maybe that Yaski sees for our future? And since we're talking about races here, we are going to mention something about the black race. What is the origin of the black race? A lot of people ask about that. And here, since we're on the topic of differences and between humans and races and all that, something about the Jewish people and Jewish element supposedly controlling the world will be mentioned. And then Yaski will go into the ufology communities, something we did talk about before, but it's going to be talked about again. And then a little bit of it about how they're not telling you, the people, the truth in general in the Matrix. And now, overpopulation, heat in Spain. Why is it so hot in Spain? And a little comment from Yaski about the future. So let's just go into this. It's going to be quite important, I think, what we will talk about. Now, first is there is a question from someone about sugar, because in the recent topic, in the recent video about food and about nutrition, it was said that fruits contain a refined sugar. And some people are asking, is this a mistake? Is it how it's supposed to be? So I asked Yaski because that was Yaski who said that, and she has this to say. Yes, maybe I shouldn't have said refined sugar, because it lends itself to misinterpretation. But yes, sucrose, that's what she was meaning, sucrose is the same as refined sugar, plus fructose and other types of hybrid sugars. Since it is something natural, fruit, it does not only have one type of sugar, but many types. But in the end, the body processes it as sucrose, like a candy. In other words, and this is from the laboratory, it is the same to eat a banana than a chocolate bar, as far as the glycemic effect is concerned. Okay, so that's for those of you who were wondering about this and whether this was some kind of a mistake. Now, when Yaski reappeared in contact, she told us that there was some sort of a quarantine enforced upon the communication, and that was one of the reasons why the Tibetans could not be in touch, even though they never left. They were always here. And at the same time, Yaski is talking about how there's so much traffic around Earth, and how Hashmalims, Tibetan special forces, are in operations on Earth, going down, and in general how there's just so much action on the side of extraterrestrials. So someone is asking, how do these two information match? Because on the one hand there's this stricter quarantine enforced upon the communications, interventions, visitations, etc. And then the ETs are in so much more operations here, activities around Earth. So how does it match? So this is Yaski responding here. Yes, it is stricter, the rules, the regulations. They want to isolate everything so that other races are not contaminated and so that nothing leaks out. But the same quarantine causes the same races to panic, provoking more intervention, not less, at least in certain matters, although not in others, as with telecommunications, which are more and more reduced and controlled. Here I'm asking, okay, but you said, Yaski, that the Hashmalims, for example, are helping in operations, but how if the Federation forbids interventions? That's the question. Or what kind of quarantine is this? And Yasky said, it's supposed to be total. Nothing in, nothing out. But this is not achieved in practice, but officially it is so. We have to here also remember that some of these regulations, it's not like on Earth, where if we do something against the law, we're going to be policed and thrown to jail. It's like recommendations. And some rules are stricter than others. So here I'm asking, so if nothing comes in, nothing goes out, how can the Kashmalim come down to Earth? Can they act against this directive? And Yasky says that the Hashmalim only help in very limited ways, such as altering the course of a single person's life. And they pass as agents of various kinds, as spec ops, rescuers, or whatever it takes. So they will always look like humans, but with missions that alter the life course of people of interest to their particular group. So here we can see from this that it's this intervention policies and regulations refer more to the more official direct contacts and interventions. But here the Hashmalims come here as humans, as most of them do. So here I'm asking, so if there are missions where they can pass as humans, that is allowed, yes? Yasky says, actually even that is not officially allowed. It depends on the mission. If it's not necessary to pass as humans, they will not pass as humans. They go down, do whatever, and leave as they are. Each group or race decides what they do or why. And the question is from Robert, who decides what missions they have to do? The Queen? And she says mostly yes in this case. And I ask, so what they do is illegal, basically. And Yasky says, you could say it is, yes. But, Tibetans have always been known to be rebellious kind and, doing what they do. However, still, they belong officially to the Federation. So many of these regulations, they still have to abide, to some extent. Okay, now, some people ask me about the moon, if there's anything going on the moon, because apparently, there's some talk about moon activities, some Orion groups being active. I asked about the moon, if Yasky knows anything about this. She says this: there has been a lot of activity on the moon for months. However, as such, I have not heard of that incident you mentioned with the Orion people. I do not discredit. It is possible. Just because I'm here, I don't hear about everything. However, I would approach everything with caution. Connect the dots with what other people say or don't say, and then form your own judgment with the best data possible. But you can't know what's going on about everything, not today, even up here. Too many races in question, too much movement, hermeticism. Because many people assume that just because they are extraterrestrials and just because they are up there on the ship, right away they have access to all kinds of knowledge, information, and they just know everything that goes on in space. There's just so much politics happening. There are different levels, as we always say. Hermeticism, as she says here, too much movement, too many races. It's all very complicated. Now I'm asking, what Orion group? What Orion group empire? And she says, well, there are Orion personnel here. In parentheses, the Alpha Draco to start with, but not only. But according to the Federation, they are not bad guys, but cooperating. So I can't debunk. And I'm asking, what kind of activity is there on the moon? From the little you know. And she says that they want to rehabilitate areas for use as forward base for countless races. This comes from the Diezlian Tiplex, Arcturians. Not much more. And Robert is wondering why on the moon and not make these bases on their motherships. What are they looking for on the moon? And Yasky responds, they are looking for more space to station ships, like the Tigetans did on the Viera a few years ago. Viera is a biosphere, not old, well, old, Andromedan ship, and for a while Tigetans were parking their ships over there. So they are looking for more space because there's a lot of traffic. And yeah, they need more space to station ships. But not only, that's not the only reason why they are there. Resources too. Resources. Robert says, but they are not going to let the secret space program land on the moon, are they? Yes, he says, there are humans who are said to cooperate. But to me, that is more cabal coming up here to deal and make treaties and business with various races. But the part that NASA reports is a lie. And now I'm asking about the resources, because I was surprised that they are interested in the resources in the moon. What resources if it's an abandoned old Andromedan biosphere ship damaged in the Time-Mat Wars? So I'm asking, what resources? Old pipes and broken metals from not being in use for years? Because that's all there is on the moon, isn't it? And she says, yes, recycling of materials, but not mining, recycling. Also, I was surprised, like recycling, why don't they use replicators? And yes, he says, also interestingly, not everything can be replicated, or sometimes a replicator works better if you inject dust from the base material. Okay, well, that's about moon. That's all I have about moon at this time. And now, going on to the next topic, I have a question from Jeff, who I was on a show with recently doing the interview with him, and his interest was planetary race wars and generally racial relations in our future, how Yaski sees this. So, about the races, planetary race wars and race conflicts, Yaski says this: the cabal uses everything possible to create separation between people, including race. But it's only one of those causes. Race, creed, gender, politics, abortion, no abortion, pineapple jam versus strawberry jam, yes, his words, all those work to make people fight each other, but hardly work alone. They do, but not enough to cause the changes the cabal wants. So, race wars, I would see that as only one more excuse to fight each other. Yet, as such, big or small causes for wars of any kind, I haven't seen such a thing in the planetary scale. I think, and she didn't know anything about Jeff and what country he was from, she says, I think and feel that question or angle comes from people living in the US, because it is there where race war has always been a something present for the general population. And as with everything else, very interesting point, it is highly manipulated and controlled via the media, not like something that the people themselves generate. Other places, like South Africa, also have race wars, and all over the earth, some places more than others. But I don't see it as something that would cause a war on a planetary scale. The relationship between races, it all boils down to what the controllers via the media will want and want. People don't control that, not at that scale. Parentheses, except through general manifestation, metaphysically speaking. Yes, yes, she says, but that's another level. Another point, what races? They are all globalizing and turning into Latinos, all of them, as in a mixed race, through race mixing, mongrelization. And the first race at risk of disappearing is the white race. Everything attacks the whites nowadays. Even through this divulgation, this disclosure, this work we are doing, they have criticized us or me because I'm white and I have blue eyes. Yes? Well, do you want me to wear brown contacts? Will you be happy then? And not everyone on this ship has blue eyes. 4 crew members have brown eyes. So why is that even important? And that's true. I mentioned this before. I'll mention this briefly here now too. Some people ask, why are they all white? Why do we present them as white? Well, because they are white. Why do we have to feel guilty about this and the Taigetans are white. Finnish people mostly are white. That's what they are. I don't talk to any other colored ET. So I'm going to present them as what they are. Now, talking about the races and the black race, something that many people ask about also, what is the origin of the black race? We mentioned this some time ago, long time ago, years ago with Varuovera. I think it was mentioned that yes, there are black races out there, but not many. There are black people, not races. You understand what I mean here. Black people out there. But not much more was known or said in this topic. Now, asking Yaski about the origin of the black race, this is what she says. There is no black race. There are no races as your followers view them. It is only a change of pigmentation in the skin, plus some different physical features, as happens with all and any race on Earth. To think that they come from another planet with another origin is human reasoning with human ideas and concepts. They are not another race. They are the same. And they are everywhere as other variants of humans. They are not from one space culture or another. It's all mixed up. They are the same. Asking for that, I see it as the black or Afro descendants on Earth wanting to have a part too, because the whites already have their Pleiadians. So they feel left out. Not so. That is inside their heads and only there. It doesn't matter what color their skin is. They can be starseeds of any species. It's just the color of the suit, that's all. Leave human thoughts aside. Everything is unified. We are all the same, just with minuscule differences to give everything variety. I feel that they are projecting there, how they feel inside. Their human programming. I feel they are resentful. But sorry, Taigetans are Caucasian, mostly blonde with blue eyes. But here I'm asking Yaski, I think those people who are asking this, they or authentically curious about the origin, maybe, why the pigmentation is black. For example, okay, if this is not a separate race, of course, but why different color? Why are we white? And the answer, well, may be something that you already know or expect, because I think I have heard that before somewhere. But this is what Yaski said, so that they can adapt to a lot of sun, because they need whiter skin to absorb the sun rays where there is almost none. Pigmentation is hard on the body. If it is not used, it is relegated, generation after generation. It is not evolution, it is adaptation. It is different. Okay, so I'm asking, so the white ETs are also from the planets where the sun doesn't hit much. And she says it's not so much whether or not they get a lot of sun. It is a matter of light output frequencies and solar radiation. Okay, I'm asking, so there are black ETs also, right? She says, yes, there are, and everywhere. Not only in Alphrata. Alphrata is the Centauri planet. There are ex-humans who were rescued a long time ago, and they are a mix of different races from different countries on Earth. So they are kind of like space Latinos. So she says, yes, there are black people and everywhere, not only in Alphrata. Most of them are Latinos in Alpharata, because that's what results from mixing all the skin colors on Earth. And I'm asking about, okay, so the black ETs, did they communicate with the humans? Do they come here? Well, she's only responding to the second question here. She says, yes, they come. They are everywhere, like the others. And yeah, because there are no reports of those black ETs, or not many, not that I know of, talking to the people. It's usually, the white Nordics, Pleiadians, like very typical, yes. Well, but that's how it is. But there are no reports of these black ones communicating. And here she says, well, they also don't talk about space Latinos, and they are the most numerous at this time. Most numerous. Forget Pleiadians, forget white ETs. The space Latinos are the most common ETs in operation, off and on Earth. And there are no reports of those, because when they come down, they get mixed up in the population. So they don't meet the expectations of what an ET should be or what an ET should look like. But they do come down and they do intervene. But they are mistaken for normal humans. It is easy for them to hide. And the androgynous ones too. Others, like the Solations, not so much. Solations are also from the Pleiades, very tall and white skin, kind of albino type, and white hair. So those maybe, it's difficult for them to blend in. But the space Latinos are the ones who by far, I call them here the space Latinos, by far the majority. The ones who come down the most, interfere the most, and interact the most with the population. They look like any son of a neighbor, but with the ship hidden in the garage. Crazy, right? Amazing. That's how it is. So I hope this kind of answers your anxieties and worries and questions about the black race. I know more could be given, of course, on any subject. And remember, this is mini topics, mini conversations. So that's all I have. Now, talking about races and religions and differences between people. Now, about the Jews, there was a comment also that I passed to Yaski about the Jews being in control of the world, and Yaski is commenting this: change Jews controlling the world. Change that for Illuminati cabal, and then that would be right. And I am quite sure Illuminati is not the right word either. The problem here is that they are the same as, or an equivalent to, Jesuits. So even though no one else talks about this way, I'm quite sure the Illuminati are only part of the larger cabal that controls Earth, with or without involving the ET level of things. But then again, where does humanity end and ET begin? As we always say, very vague and very shady. As for Jews, Illuminati and Jesuits as a whole, they are not necessarily Jews. Jews alone as a problem, no. Those are only another part of the problem, but not the problem. I also feel the cabal's part, that is not Jews, blames them for everything and promotes attacking and blaming them. And that is nothing new, as for ages the high cabal, whoever they are, have used Jews as scapegoats, exact terms using biblical reference even. So blaming Jews for everything that goes wrong in the world goes as far back as 1330 BC, with Moses and Akhenaten and all that. As you know, the cabal plays both sides to a conflict, and more sides too. So yes, the Jews are guilty of their share of things, of having also been used as tools for repressing other peoples. Example of this is Israel and their vastly cruel and unjust treatment of people in Gaza, to mention only one atrocity committed by Jews as such. But that is only part of the cabal, not the cause itself. only one of the branches, only one of the horns of the monster. And I say, who is the heart of the monster then? And yes, he says it is a complicated soup. Not one person, but a group. But they are again shady, as it also includes a heavy off-world component. So no, I cannot know who it is as in one person or a group. Some say that it's the 13 Council. But no, that's just one more level of everything, human level. Good. Now, talking about the communities and the organizations, well, and the circles and levels of people who control the population on Earth and humans. Now, Yaski here talks about ufological communities, and we made videos about this. By the way, the video that I made about this, CIA infiltrating the UFO communities, I made it in my backup channel, not in the main Cosmic Agency, but I have a Cosmic Agency too. And there's just one video there, and that's that video. So go and watch it if you want. And we talked there about how the CIA and other agencies and the controllers are infiltrated everywhere, of course, but especially in the ufology communities. And they are doing this, of course. We already said that, because they need to dominate and control the area where all the starseeds and awakened people go to ask questions and know about the extraterrestrials and spirituality and what goes on after beyond Earth. So this is especially a very interesting area for them to control. So as Yaski here says, the big experts, and this is a very important point, and this is, I feel, one of the most important points for you to remember from what Yaski always talks about. The big experts in ufological communities, established ufological communities, either work directly with the three-letter agencies to guide public perception, or they are useful fools trying to get noticed by repeating, like parakeets, what the former have said. Some are big even, but backed by organizations. Established ufological world is basically garbage. People fall for it because it comes, and later you will see why also she says it is garbage. It's very interesting. I'll just say it very quickly here, but it will be mentioned later. It's because they basically already have a human organization that promotes all these ideas, about the federations and all that. Even though that's completely true, there is a federation, but there, established ufological organizations and people and experts. It's basically a human organization that emulates, or what's behind them, maybe even without them knowing, is the human organization that emulates federation kind of affairs in order to direct people into what they want people to believe about the federations and about ETs. But okay, that later. So, established ufological world is basically garbage. People fall for it because it comes from respectable individuals. Therefore, it is credible. So they fall for the same thing as those that they criticize who believe in CNN and BBC just because they are authorities. And this is a very, very important point, because as soon as you get out of the official matrix networks, and you feel like, wow, I'm awakened now, I'm going to look for information in the alternative circles, you find yourself with these established ufological and alternative circles, groups, expert and information, and you think, that's it, this is the truth. I am now in the alternative world. So you fall for that because you don't realize this is just another layer of the matrix that has infiltrated in those ufological circles, because it's super important for them to manipulate the perception of the people who come from the mainstream into the alternative. So it's like the matrix after matrix. So now, if you criticize your friends or whoever who is watching CNN, BBC, and TV because they are official, well, look at yourself and look at who you listen to and who you pay attention to in the alternative world. Are they official experts, respectable authorities? Not because they are that, they are going to tell you the truth. And actually, as Yaski here explains, the bigger they are, the more official they are, probably the more controlled they are. Now, some of them may not even know this and may even be doing whatever they are doing out of good intent. But who is behind them for sure is someone who knows what they are doing. Now, listen to this. So it's the same as believing in the CNN and the BBC just because they are authorities. It is the same as believing that governments have their best interest in mind. It's all manipulation of perception for the exploitation and guidance of human society on a planetary level. And just because they have millions of followers and 50 books doesn't mean they have the truth. Now, important. I am not telling you that I have the truth. I am just telling you why they do not have the truth and that there is no such thing as one truth. And therefore, everyone must take responsibility for investigating and forming their own criteria, or else they will fall into the same old exploitation. And now she's talking about that human organization. She says, moreover, they already have a human organization. I think it's super important. Human organization that emulates and copies the Federation's affairs in order to impose a set of ideas and concepts on humans with their monopoly of truth. So obviously, they will never recognize me. They will never recognize us. Just as I can't give proof like people want, neither can they. The only thing they have is a recognition and acceptance among the members of their group. That is, X is backed by Y, and Y by Zeta, and Zeta by X and Y. And so we go, and people believe it. It is clear that when there is an accepted authority with an organization behind it, it will necessarily have manipulators behind it. Keep this in mind, even though Yaski always stresses the point and mentions looking at everything and learning from everybody and making your own judgments about everything. Keep this strongly in mind, that just as there is a matrix layer, there is a matrix within our society behind everything, there is another layer of the matrix in the official established ufological communities. So that's just the way it is. And now, talking about how they are not telling people the truth in general in our society. Here, Robert is asking about the Ukraine topic, and he says it probably continues as usual, doesn't it? And here Yaski says, yes, I insist in the same thing. It is a manipulated war that does not happen as they tell you. It is mostly media. They create fear and with that, refugees. Nobody denies that. But the war is not the way they say it is, nor does it obey the reasons they say it does. Basically, nothing they tell you is the truth, even if it is hard to believe. Here she's talking about official media. Only unimportant things are true in the news, and thus they reinforce the idea that everything else they are told is also the truth, even if it is not. These are tricks of mass psychological manipulation. And here Yaski is sharing an image of Sphinx in Egypt. And she says, for example, I bet they don't explain this image, do they? With part of the visible subway of the part that they deny to exist. Okay, in this photo, here in this section, they found the entrances. It was an old dome, the Federation base, from what I understand, and they covered that they buried that somehow. You can't see that nowadays. They covered that and they deny that it exists. But some photos still exist when it's showing that there is that there is that entrance there in front. So Robert is asking, all that is already covered. Yes, he says yes. Now Robert is asking, I imagine that they have already plundered it all and taken it to the Vatican. And Yaski says yes, and they can't explain or tell people anything else. And this is all to show you as an example that they are hiding things and always changing everything and manipulating. She's saying you can see there how they hide everything because they deny what's in the picture. Robert is also asking if Yaski has memories of that time in Egypt, and she says, yes, I do, remembering that there were 2 of them. Another topic. So here Robert is saying also the last sentence, I think they covered up any sign that would indicate that there is an entrance. And Yaski says, right, yes, that's right. So they are lying and manipulating all over the place. And another topic where they manipulate people with is the topic of overpopulation. And we talked about this already. Our followers know that we say that there is no overpopulation, that's the lie. So here we go into that as well a little bit. Yaski states, there is no climate change, CO2 is not a pollutant, and there is definitely no overpopulation. On the contrary, we see terrible data pointing to the contrary. It is going down at an alarming rate. Roberts is asking, worldwide or some countries more than others? Response, worldwide, even in third world countries, but of course in some more than others, with Japan and Germany basically dying without people. There are almost no babies. Many more die than are born, and that is accelerating. And here I'm asking, okay, so why are they still going for these, papayas programs, that's a code word, if they already have, population's rate going down? They want even less people. And here Yaski is responding, it's not just less people, it's too many for them and for their plans to control the remaining population. Besides, the world population is really more like 10% to 20% of what they say it is. Here I'm asking about the matrix people, unreal people, and do they know about them? She says, yes, it is a little difficult to consider those matrix ones. But the Cabal knows about their existence? And yes, he says, of course they do. They really care about the real ones, not the others that are only generated by the attention of the real ones. And those are too many for them, the real ones. For them, the Cabal. That is why a lot of the blame for their agendas falls on the starseeds, because they are the ones that would or can collapse the matrix. That is what worries them, and that is why the papaya programs and all. In the end, it is to control the awakened ones, not so much general human population. They are also working on their reset. That is, they want to put in a new, more tyrannical system. And for that to work, they need fewer people than the existing population, because they are too free. They know they won't be able to convince sufficiently a large mass of people, so they opt for elimination. And here Yaski is sharing a short video from Elon Musk, where he's talking about how he believes there is no overpopulation, the same as what we say. So I say, I don't understand, how is it, he's from the Cabal, right? How is it that he's saying exactly the same thing? Yaski says, he is Cabal, of course he is. But it's interesting to see him saying that. It just makes you wonder why he is saying it, for what purpose. Those guys don't let things slip. They say what they know they should say. Maybe it's that letting go of karma again. That is to say, to tell the truth to the people but to continue with their agendas so that the karma of what happens falls on the people and not on them, the cabal. But we are always telling you that there is no overpopulation, only concentration of humans in big nuclei or farms called big cities. Now, talking about big cities, big countries, and all that, let's go to Spain. And someone has asked me about the heat in Spain, very high temperatures. The question exactly is this. We're at the end of October, and there are still temperatures of 32 degrees in the south of Spain. That is because winds are coming in from Africa, when at this time of the year we should be getting winds from the north. Is this change in wind direction being done with HARP technology? And we talked about the weather, climate, and all that manipulations in other videos. So Yaski here responds, oh, you already know that it is weather manipulation, and not only with HARP, but with a set of technologies that reinforce and combine their effects with each other. From chemical seeding, substances, plus HARP, plus directed energy. The weather all over the world is largely manipulated, and it's nothing new. On a large scale, it has been done since at least the 1940s. Climate is not natural. It is true that it follows a more or less logical patterns, but the strength of each weather event is controlled. And events like natural storms are used to make them worse, to make them stronger and steer them so that they destroy things, cities, for more control and exploitation of the people, as happened with Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. You have to add up the pieces, add up the agendas. Don't look at them separately, because everything is connected. Okay, now talking about the agendas and all that, so let's continue talking about the future. How Yaski sees the future here. I'm going to share some comments, and this is the last topic for today. About the future, I don't see cosmic cataclysms. Not that. Nuclear bombs, and this is going to be interesting, I'm going to make a topic on nuclear bombs soon as well. It will not happen. First of all, because nuclear bombs do not work as people are told. This is what I'm going to be talking about. And secondly, because there is no real conflict between countries, since they are controlled by the same group. They just set them to fight each other like a boxing coach who finances both boxers in a match. So what they can do is to detonate conventional high explosives and then sell to the public that it was nuclear. So, okay, so she doesn't see any cosmic cataclysms, but what she does see is an accelerated descent into chaos, with further loss of freedoms to the population, fulfilling isolated agendas that total up. Global control over everything people do. And there doesn't have to be types of quarantines like for the last 2 years. Restrictions are progressive and cumulative, gradually frying the toad in the pan. As, for example, the loss of freedoms such as no longer having their own vehicles. And this is to do with electric cars and the agenda behind them, and I have a video about this coming up soon as well. So, no longer having their own vehicles, money not being accumulative, but rather what they earn will have an expiration date. In other words, you have 1 month to spend your income on whatever you're allowed to spend it, because after 1 month, what you have not spent will expire. For example, so people will not be able to accumulate goods or save anything. The cabal are still considering what and how, and which economic combinations they want and can place in what places on Earth. So this is still very much not defined, their plan. Or maybe it is, we don't know exactly. But technically, they will be able to go out on the streets, the people. Technically, they are free. But obviously they are not. and people would gradually accept those kinds of things that make them slaves of a horrendous dystopia. And I see that those who tell the sorts of good news, claiming that saviors or galactic federations are always about to save the world, are only disinformation agents and agents of more control over population sectors that believe in that kind of things. So again, here we are going back to what I was saying before about the agencies and the cabal infiltrating in the ufology circles. Many, the majority, do it from the good heart, with good intentions, and with true altruistic purposes, with the idea of not propagating more negativity, creating a comforting bubble of denial, of escapism from reality. People will listen 1,000 times more to those who say what they want to hear than to those who tell them uncomfortable truths. I see people fall for the media's lies over and over again, and those who don't get sucked in by the majority. That is a big or important part of the problem. Herd thinking as their survival instinct is exploited, which dictates that they will depend on the acceptance of the group to which they belong. The cabal uses this against the people. And the last rant from Yaski here: why do people assume that governments have their best interest in mind, huh? Since when do governments look out for their citizens? Yes, I am saying it is the fault of the people as a whole for not being able to see what is quite obvious. Governments will only follow their interests and the directives of the governments that govern them, the cabal. Thank you very much, Yazi, for your information, for all this, and thank you very much to all of you for listening. I think there was quite a lot of important and interesting stuff in this MiniTopics. I have another MiniTopics also brewing. I had to divide it because there was so much. So there's another one in the making, and I have other videos also in the preparation, very interesting ones. I know I have the one about autism coming up very soon that I have to make. Also, the next one will be about the evacuations, supposed evacuations from Earth, because it's been talked about for many, many years about the evacuation of humans to other planets. When the situation becomes dire and drastic here. So I asked Yaski about this, and the topic also went into other directions. So I think it's going to be interesting. Also, like I said, electric cars, telepathy, nuclear bombs. That's going to be a really cool one as well. A lot of things, as always. I'm going to leave you continuing your day, your evening, or your night. Thank you again for being here with me today. And until we meet again in the next video. Bye-bye.